All right. So we're going to begin with taking a few deep breaths, and then we will take them in and out slowly, just calming your brain, your mind, your whole body. Then we do a short refuge prayer. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent for the benefit of all sentient beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent for the benefit of all sentient beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we're continuing in chapter 15. And the highest yoga tantra, the completion stage of that. And so last week, the second part of that chapter, we looked at the four blisses or joys, the impure illusory body, and dream yogas. And so now this week, we're getting into the pure illusory body. So this is, having done those four blisses and engaged in the dream yogas, you increasingly see all appearances as illusory. Yeah, so it's all in our mind, and that's a key factor from the Buddha on down, that everything that we see, experience is actually happening in our mind. Now, it has relations to physical things, don't get me wrong, it's not all myth and magic, but it is perceived in the way that is actually in our mind. And the mind of other animals perceive it in a different way than we do. We know that. They see things differently and so forth. So it is unique in terms of the way that we do it. And there are even variations within humans as well. There's some variations in one way or another. And so the key here is to view everything as being somewhat illusory in nature. So they appear like reflections in a mirror, so to speak. They're empirically real, but not independently existent. So some other examples are to look at a picture of Vajrasattva or other yidam through a crystal, little crystal right here. You may have a crystal, you can look at it and suddenly it changes. It doesn't look the same when you look at it through a crystal. And so there are multiple images that seem equally real but are illusory, like a dream. And then we contemplate on that. And then dissolve the images into your body. Just imagine them coming into your body. They're actually in your brain already, but imagine them in that way. And then the yidam is pure illusory body. Contemplate your own body like that it's illusory. Even though we view our body and have for many years, it's actually not the way that we think it is. Okay? Biologically, mentally, it's all somewhat different. So you focus on this illusory experience between meditations, and this is an approximation of the way that an actual Buddha perceives phenomena at all times. So we do this as a practice, we get better at it and better at it until we get to the point as a Buddha, that's just the way that we view everything. Okay? So now we're going into what's called the Four Empties. As repeatedly noted, there are many variations in doing these practices. In this case, we are following Padmasambhava's instructions on a series of incremental steps to bring you as quickly as possible from an impure illusory body to Semblant Clear Light, an approximation of clear light, to the manifestation of pure illusory body and actual clear light. So as described by Padmasambhava. So then, having achieved the direct experience of the four blisses, the next stage is to experience the union of bliss emptiness. The following practice is usually added to the four blisses practice, the one that we did last week, although here it is described as a separate practice. To do this, just insert the four empties into the previous practice of the four blisses. So those are terms that are used as a part of that. We talked about it last week. So we're looking at the four empties in this one. And we begin, as we do all of our meditation practices. We don't go through that in the class now because we've gone through it previously, but we begin by setting our intention, and then we do a short Nundro practice, and then 9-round purification breathing. So those are kind of standard practices that are addressed in previous classes and in the textbook. So then the actual practice is from emptiness. Visualize yourself as Vajrayogini with Vanga or other Yidam with consort, transparent like a crystal, a transparent statue, or looking at one through a crystal, as I just mentioned. So we view it in that kind of a way. From the tip of your jewel, the ascending four blisses are not aroused as the melted red drop at the navel chakra are aroused as the melted red drop at the navel chakra ascends on the winds of the crown. So it goes up from the navel, just below your belly button basically, and goes up through the central channel and up to the crown, so at the top of your head. Then the melted white drop, so that was a red drop that went up. So now that makes contact with the white drop, said to be at the crown of our head, as we looked at previously. And so that one then is released and goes back down through the central channel. And the stages of emptiness, replacing the four blisses, and with four empties, and the crown at the crown chakra. Great emptiness at the throat chakra, extreme emptiness at the heart chakra, and total emptiness at the navel chakra. So it's basically the same as what we were talking about last week, but the terminology has shifted just a little bit. At the tip of the jewel, the union of bliss and emptiness is achieved. So we repeat as many times as necessary to achieve the actual experience of union of bliss and emptiness. And then the dedication. So at the end of each practice, we include a dedication. Now, typically we would do these practices for as many times as you can in one particular sitting. And then you would do it either multiple times during the day, like in the morning, and then again in the evening, or if you have other opportunities during the day to do that. Repetition is very important. So it's not so much the length of time that you spend, but how many times that you do that. And so the dedication and post-meditation following the practice continue as you can during your daily activities as Vajrayogini. So you continue visualizing yourself as Vajrayogini or any other Yidam and consort. You may think of it as a role play, a powerful tool in training the body and the mind. Alternating between ascending bliss and descending bliss has been shown to be a highly effective way of achieving the union of the two states. And so that's a part of this practice that are incorporated together. So we're going up and we're going down, ascending and descending. So it's a very good or beneficial way to help train your mind in this practice. So during the illusory body practice with the four empties, you may also begin to experience what is referred to as clear light. This is not likely to be an actual clear light, but an approximation called Semblant Clear Light. And this is none other than your own true nature, your Buddhanature, or Dharmakaya, as we sometimes refer to it. So then we go on to this clear light. The next practice that we would do is related to the actual clear light. So we keep in mind that clear light refers to pure awareness or rigpa. Clear is like, is that clear? Not transparent, but is that really clear? Get it? And light is like luminous understanding versus conceptual. Okay, so it's an understanding, an experiential understanding as opposed to a conceptual understanding. We may also experience clear light naturally at the time of going to sleep and awaking. We talked about dream yoga before, and so these kind of experiences may happen in a dream state as well. And at the time of death. And we also looked a little bit at the time of death and some of the experiences that may happen associated with that. In the latter case, the clear light experience from our practice is called the child clear light, whereas the clear light of death is called the mother clear light. If we recognize the clear light at that time, they are said to merge together like a mother and child, and we will attain liberation. Not the only way, but one of the ways we can attain liberation. In the first session, you visualize yourself as Vajrayogini or the Yidam or consort in union together. Light emanates from the home at your heart, a home syllable or a bindu at your heart, purifying the inanimate universe, which melts into the clear light that is absorbed into the animate universe, which melts into clear light that is absorbed into you as Vajrayogini or Yidam and consort. You dissolve from the top down and the bottom up to the home at your heart chakra, which then dissolves from the bottom up through the crescent, drop, and nada into emptiness. So you hold your mind there, where you will again experience the four empties, the last of which is the clear light. So clear in the sense of, is that clear? And light in the sense of illuminating or knowing. So also referred to as Rigpa, which literally means pure or clear awareness, which is the awareness is the light. So pure is the clear, awareness is the light. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama sometimes combines them into Rigpa clear light. And so we remain absorbed in the clear light mind, single-pointedly giving rise to the actual clear light of Buddhahood. Afterwards, arise as Vajrayogini or Yidam and consort, then, if you like, re-enter your old aggregates, your physical body. Finally, envision the subtle mandala, now the size of an atom or a particle of dust. So it's viewed as very, very tiny. On a white lotus, at the heart of the wisdom being Jnanasattvas, inside your own heart chakra. So you imagine them being inside your heart, at the center of that central channel that's there, and there's a lotus that's a part of that, very tiny, and then this chakra that is even more tiny. Pulsating light of great compassion is generated from the clear light, manifesting countless emanations for the benefit of all beings. So that's an important aspect of all practices that we do. We view it not just for ourselves, but we view it in a way that it just radiates out to all beings to benefit them as well. In the second session, again, visualize yourself as Vajrayogini, or the Yidam and consort in union. Light rays from the hong or the heart radiate out and dissolve the mandala into emptiness. This gives rise to the 5 signs of dissolving the elements. The sign of earth dissolving into water is a vision like a mirage. Water into fire is a wispy blueness like smoke. Fire into air is like sparks or fireflies. Air into space is like the flame of a butter lamp. So this is called the 4 subtle visions of, first, whiteness as the white drop of the crown melts and descends to the heart. The second one, redness, as the red drop at the navel melts and ascends to the heart. And total darkness, as the white and red drops meet together at the indestructible drop at the heart. And the fourth one, the Semblant Clear Light, as a vision of luminous emptiness, as both dissolve into the indestructible drop at the heart. So first there's the white one coming up, then the red one coming down, or excuse me, the other way around. Red one coming up, the white one coming down, meeting at the heart together, and then dissolving into the heart center. And so then we meditate on clear light as long as you can. Continue the experience as you arise as Vajrayogini or Yidam and consort. This experience is similar to that at the time of death and helps prepare us to recognize the clear light of death and achieve liberation, one of several methods or practices. So His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche described the clear light yoga's quote in a text. He describes the distraction, being aware of it, but not to be distracted. Okay? It can be a distraction, but don't be distracted by it. The next part is in deep sleep. Now we've talked about dream yogas, and deep sleep is one of the things. And so you will recognize the clear light of deep sleep as a part of this at night when you go to sleep, or whenever you go to sleep, daytime or night. What we call clear light is your ability to outshine thoughts and emotions or feelings with clear awareness. A pure awareness, non-conceptual, but just aware. These thoughts, while arising, dissolve without having affected you or leaving a trace behind. A beginning practitioner will sustain mindfulness sometimes and then will again become unmindful. This must first be overcome during the daytime. You must first dissolve whatever habitual thoughts arise, then habituate sustaining clear awareness. So anytime you notice that you have become distracted, you stop that immediately, and then you go back and dissolve that into clear awareness. Then, when you go to sleep, uphold mindfulness by falling asleep, practicing the Om Ah Hung or Vajra recitation. At times, you might remember the Om Ah Hung during the dream state. And eventually, your mindfulness will remain even in the deep sleep state. Now, a note about that, because the definition of a deep sleep state in modern science is different than the way it's being referred to here. Deep sleep is defined as being unconscious. So to say that you're being conscious of something going on in a deep sleep is not quite the same thing. So it's not literally the case here, but it's a subjective kind of an experience. So dreaming is a conscious action by definition. So then we go into dissolution into the clear light. Now we saw it illustrated there. The following practice transitions us into the clear light experience, Dharmakaya, the natural state of truth body of a Buddha. Initially, this is done as a daytime practice, so prepare for it there. Then, as explained by Padmasambhava, this is also done as dream yoga practice. Hence the need to do some of those dream yoga practices that we talked about last week. Thus, our prior experience with dream yoga is very important for achieving the clear light in this practice. Later, you will see how it can be incorporated into a regular sadhana practice, the sadhana of the red dakini, which is in the appendix D of the book, the text. So again, as we would in the previous example for practice, we start with our intention. Why are we doing this? There's a standard one in the book, but it can be individual intention as well. And then the nundro, just a nice short nundro practice to include there. And then the 9-round purification breathing as well. Then, having done those, the instructions on dreaming during the sleep. And remember, this first session we do in the daytime. We cultivate the spirit of awakening, altruistic intention or bodhicitta. And then we pray, may I understand the clear light and dispel the ignorance of self and others. So again, the idea of self and other are words, concepts that are a part of this that complicate our understanding of these deeper views of Buddhism. So we lie in the lion posture, which you may or may not be familiar with. You may have seen pictures of the Buddha in this way, lying down on his right side with his hands supporting his head as he is sleeping in that posture. Might help to have a pillow, help to support you there as a part of that. So whether it's real or imagined, because we're doing this during the daytime, and then with a white bindu in heart chakra, pray to realize the nature of mind, your Buddha nature. Clear light appears as you fall asleep, as you awaken, between the waking and dream states. It's important to then recognize in the daytime so that you will have the same experience when you die. So that's part of the reason for training in dream yoga, is that it's similar, or at least close to in some ways, of the dying process. So we all have Buddhanature, we just don't recognize it. So then the second session is the dissolution of consciousness. So from clarity and emptiness, we visualize at the forehead, feel warmth. So feel that, not with your hand, but it just feels warm. The dissolution of earth into water. At the heart is a sinking feeling, the dissolution of water into fire. And then in your mind, a feeling of agitation, the dissolution of fire into air. And then falling fast asleep, the dissolution of air into consciousness. And then we focus on the heart and recognize the clarity and emptiness, the Rigpa or clear light experience. So what we were just talking about. And so then, one of the topics here following that as a practice is dispelling obstacles. Because sometimes, as we talked about in dream yoga, there are things that a lot of different people have experienced. And some of those are things that can get in the way here as well. So you can always go back and look at the kind of things that were in that text and see if those or one of those are the problem. So His Holiness Khenchen Lama Rinpoche says if it doesn't work, he recommends sitting in the meditation posture before you go to sleep and meditate on Buddhanature. Then do the main practice while falling asleep. So he's just adding in another step there, that you sit in a seated position and do a little meditation, help prepare yourself for the actual practice in the sleep state. And then recognizing your Buddhanature, the inner aspect, and surroundings, the outer, is the key, the union of samsara and nirvana. And of course, the goal is to achieve nirvana. Samsara is the state of experience that we normally have. Usually when we use that word, though, we're talking about different problems that we experience in our life. But literally, samsara just means actions. You're doing things, so forth. But in this case, it's not just actions, but it's also the fact that a lot of them are negative or problematic in our lives. So then, in a more elaborate process from the experience of the Semblant Clear Light, the process is reversed through the black, red, and white lights until the vital energies return to the central channel and we again arise as Vajrayogini or Yidam and consort. This body now appears as the impure illusory body, which re-enters our coarse body, or physical body, due to the force of karma that has not yet completely purified. It is not yet completely purified. So this is a conceptualization of how we do these things. Your coarse body need not be abandoned if you choose to continue for the benefit of others, which is the Bodhisattva ideal. So some of the texts make it sound like you just poof, the body disappears. But the reality is we know the body stays there until we die, in which case then it's buried or burned or whatever as a part of that. But there is this sense about our being that transcends the physical body. So then earlier we did physical isolation called vase breathing and verbal isolation called Vajra recitation. Now we do mental isolation, which is achieved through the Tumo and Tsalung with the four Blisses and the Four Empties, as well as dissolution into clear light. So the empties manifest due to the dissolution of the winds into the heart. So the winds are considered to be movements within the channels, particularly the central channel, but it comes in from the side channels and the radiation of things outward from each of the chakras in the central channel as well. So mastery of these practices achieves the third stage of the completion stage practices. So this is a core indicator of where we are and how we're doing in terms of our progress in the practice. So then the actual clear light in pure illusory body, the next stage. So once we have recognized the actual clear light, which is Dharmakaya, in the previous practice, the winds stir slightly again. And you arise as the pure illusory body, which is Sambhogakaya. And then the pure illusory body is capable of manifesting emanation bodies called Nirmanakayas. So the pictures that we have around here would fit into the Sambhogakaya view of things. Now, not the pictures themselves, but the beings that are illustrated in the pictures would be the Sambhogakaya form. It's usually associated with the actual practices that we do. And the Nirmanakayas are the more physical kinds of bodies. And so the historical Buddha is usually given as an example. Sometimes Padmasambhava is given as an example, and sometimes others as well. For the benefit of all beings. So whether you view this literally or metaphorically, depending on what you believe. And then, as noted above, the coarse body need not be abandoned if you choose to continue for the benefit of others. So that's the Bodhisattva ideal, is we don't get rid of this body. We use it in order to help other beings as a part of our life in this being. Eventually, it will go away. Maybe we can be reborn into another body to be able to help that. But in any case, we can certainly do that while we are alive. So the pure illusory body is achieved primarily through the complete mastery of the meditations on Tumo and Salung and dream yoga, as we previously described. The actual clear light is an experience that cannot be described in words. So it's an experience, it's not a description or terms. Any attempt to do so, while well-intended, will fall short and mislead you. For this reason, it is most helpful to have a guidance of a qualified master with whom to share your experience and seek guidance. Now, some students attempt to mix these with non-Buddhist approaches. It's fairly common these days, which is usually not a good idea due to common contradictions. And so that's one of the issues that can come up in terms of combining things together, but it is a fairly common practice these days. So this is just my view. It's better to stay with one or another than going back and forth and mixing them together. Although many different religious views or other kinds of practices do have common elements as well. And so those are not necessarily harmful, but they also have differences of opinions about things, and then that can create confusion or other kinds of difficulties. So we need to be cautious about that. And so that concludes for today. And so next week, we'll continue with chapter 15 with the bardos and the intermediate states, dying, and then dharmata, or the true nature of mind, and then becoming and transference of consciousness, or poa. So as always, email me if you have questions, or get together and we can talk about it either way. And so I'm always, well, I'm not always available. I'm kind of busy these days, but I make myself available at different times if that is helpful to you. And so now abide softly and deeply with pure awareness, loving kindness, and compassion for all beings, always and always. And more than ever, pray for peace. Thank you.